Hey, and welcome back to another video. Now, this is the Nokia N97 from 2009, a phone that was marketed as an iPhone killer and is unmistakably a Nokia device. Despite its really good sales and initial praise, this device was marred by a plethora of issues and negative backlash from many customers. Some also say that the N97 alone contributed to the downfall of Nokia as a whole. However, that is still somewhat debatable. And here today in this video, we'll be combining my usual retro style review video from my vintage tech showcase playlist with what it's like using the Nokia N97 in 2022, as I have been using this device for the past few days. I will be giving you my full experience with the device and basically show you how it holds up here in 2022, and we will also see if the Nokia N97 was as bad as people said it was. This is using the Nokia N97 in 2022. So first, before jumping right in, don't forget to smash that like button down below as it helps this video get on YouTube's algorithm. And also don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below and ring that bell notification button so you're notified whenever I upload a new video. A lot of subscribers have been telling me that my videos have not been recommended to them for some reason. It's probably got to do with something on YouTube's algorithm or whatever. So just make sure you ring that bell notification button so you get notified whenever I upload a new video. Also, if you have any questions regarding the Nokia N97, don't forget to leave the question down below, and also let me know what you think about the Nokia N97. Did you own one at some point? Do you have one in your collection? Do you plan to get one for your collection, or whatever you want to let me know down in the comment section below. My social media is also linked down in the description below, which includes Instagram, Discord, and Twitter. And now let's jump right into this video. So firstly, let us do a bit of history on the Nokia N97, because this thing has a very sparkly history. Now, this thing was announced in December of 2008 and launched in 2009, around June of 2009. And initially, it was a huge hit. People praised it for its display, its features, and its design, its build quality, etc., etc. And Nokia marketed this thing as an iPhone killer, which is a huge statement on its own, a very bold statement. So the N97 was initially released in US flagship stores as of the 9th of June 2009, which was the first date it went on sale, and eventually it sold worldwide on the 26th of June 2009. And 3 months later, as of September 2009, it was reported that the N97 actually sold 2 million units within the first 3 months, which was a really good sales figure, and that showed that the N97 was a phone that a lot of people waited for. If you are a Nokia fan or a Nokia user that only stuck with this brand, this phone was the one to have. There was no other option on the table if you were looking for a premier flagship phone. And initially everything was good to go. However, once people got their hands on this thing and they started using it, they realized this thing does have a few serious issues, namely with regarding the RAM. This thing did not have enough RAM, and we'll talk about the hardware a bit later. This thing's RAM was not enough, because after everything was set up and started running, the user had only about 50 megs of available RAM left to run his application. So that was not enough, and it caused the phone to be extremely sluggish and slow. The camera slider was also another major issue. This thing over here, if I bring it closer, you'll see mine has a small scratch over there. But some other models, there were scratches exactly on top of the camera. Mine's kind of off to the side there between the flash and the camera. This caused a lot of scratches on the camera glass. That was because the slider was mounted too close to the glass itself, and Nokia admitted that and fixed it in later models. This one seems to be an earlier model. And the N97's problems didn't also end there. It had GPS problems, it had general software bugs and stuff like that. It had reception issues, of course, where Nokia was generally known for having great reception on their phone. So that was also quite a big hit. The software issues were all fixed with software updates eventually. The GPS issue was also fixed. The reception issues were fixed. and the RAM management was also made better in a future OS update. So Nokia got on their toes and started fixing this thing as fast as they could, because it was a major release. It was not just a mid-range or lower end phone. This was the most premium of the lot, and they needed to fix things fast. And eventually, after doing all that, they did release the N97 Mini with a redesigned keyboard, more RAM, a smaller display, and it basically ironed out all the kinks on the N97. And a lot of people say that the N97 contributed directly to the downfall of Nokia. Now, that's a bad statement, honestly. After what I've read and come to a conclusion of, I can say that that is a very, very bad take on things, because in 2010, the N8 sold really well, so nobody really lost faith in Nokia there. They were definitely disappointed with the N97 and its issues, but no one really completely ditched Nokia and caused a massive drop in sales. So people really did not lose faith in Nokia. They definitely stayed with Nokia. Those who wanted to use Symbian, those who wanted to use the N-Series, definitely stayed with Nokia. Saying that the N97 caused the downfall of Nokia is a very bad take, and it's something that a lot of people still argue about, but I think it's not true. But it definitely did leave a scratch on Nokia's overall reputation. However, it was not the final nail in the coffin, and eventually they did fix this phone in many ways to get it working in the modern era at the time, relatively speaking. But yeah, that was just a quick history on the Nokia N97. Apart from all those flaws and stuff, this thing was a really, really nice phone, and we'll be looking at all of that in this video. Alright, so firstly, let's actually have a quick go around of the Nokia N97 and talk about its build and design, and then we'll go from there. So up front, as you can see, we have the earpiece over here, and then we have the front-facing camera and a single sensor over there, and a lot of sensors built in to this window-like thing over here, the proximity sensor, the light sensor, etc., etc. Just many sensors hidden under there. Let us actually lock the screen. We have Nokia branding on the side here, a very distinctive branding. The N900 also had that branding, but the N97 Mini did not have the Nokia branding over there, so that's nice to know. We have the home button over here, and we have touch buttons for the call accept and call decline as well. And we have N97 branding over there as well. So now let's move on to the side of the phone. So on this side, we have a stereo speaker over here and another one over here as well. So side firing stereo speakers like that, when you're holding it like this, or if you're holding the phone like that, they face the bottom. And then we have the micro USB port over there and a charge indicator light. We have the lock button over here to lock and unlock the screen. Moving on to the bottom of the phone, we have a place to put your finger and open the back cover. We also have a lanyard strap over there to put your lanyard, or put it around your neck, or put it on your hand. Moving on to this side, we have the camera shutter button, so it's half press to focus, full press to take a photo. We have a volume rocker there as well. The volume up is actually a bump, and the volume down is an indent, as you can see there, a nice touch. And moving on to the top of the phone, as you can see, we have the 3.5mm headphone jack over there and the power button. Now we can open the phone as well, and as you can see, we have the keyboard. This sort of is its form factor on its own, so it's not exactly the front of the phone. As you can see, we have the keyboard over here, the layout of the keyboard. The N97 Mini lost this directional pad-like thing, and instead it got arrow keys. So that's a small difference between this and the N97 Mini. Let's close the keyboard, move on to the back of the phone. It says Nokia N-Series over there. And here is the 5-megapixel camera with a dual LED flash and the slider to open and close the camera. When you do open the camera app automatically launches, as you can see over there. Now, in terms of build quality, this thing is made out of plastic entirely, so there are almost no metal parts in this thing. Even the hinge mechanism is plastic, as compared to, for example, the Nokia E7, which has a almost full metal body built of aluminum. However, the plastic on this thing is really rigid. It's not a flimsy plastic. It is built very nice. It doesn't creak or squeak or anything like that. It's a very well built phone. After all, it's an N-Series phone. It had to be built really well. So despite it being plastic, it is not cheaply built. Now, in terms of hinge build quality, like I said, despite being built of plastic, it really feels good. And when you close it and open it, it feels really, really solid. Now, I can't convey to you the feel over video like this, but I can still convey it through audio. Let me bring it closer and... I don't know if that's coming through camera. However, with that sound, you can probably somewhat make out what this thing feels like. It closes into place really nicely and smoothly, and it opens really nicely as well. A very, very good hinge design. Sure, it's not as good as the E7's hinge design over here. Here's another E7. That one needs a bit of repairs, but as you can hear, that is way better. Of course, it's a metal hinge design. Everything in the hinge is built out of metal on this thing, but it's an identical design. However, the N97 still has a very solid hinge design, and it feels really nice. Also, the keyboard feels amazing. The buttons are nice to press, and they feel really nice. They're responsive, they're tactile, they're not too squishy, neither are they too hard. They're just in the right amount. And a lot of people complained about the D-pad being easily misclickable. That's somewhat true. However, I don't mind it, but they did fix it with the N97 Mini by putting arrow keys instead of the keypad itself. So yeah, the build quality on this thing's keyboard and hinge mechanism is just really, really nice. And its design does hold up really well today. When I took this out in public, people were looking at this thing, and I'm pretty sure they recognized this phone as being, oh, that's the N97. Of course we do recognize this phone. This thing was an icon at the time, and people still do remember this thing. Especially when I opened the keyboard in public and just started messing around with it. People definitely noticed it. So it's a very iconic design, very recognizable design, and it's unmistakably a Nokia phone. Feels great in the hand, it feels solid, it does not feel cheap at all. It is still, to this day, in 2022, a very premium phone, regardless of its age. So a big thumbs up in terms of build quality and overall design. Now let us talk about the display on the N97, and I can say for the past few days while I've been using it, it was an absolute treat to use. It definitely holds up really well here in 2022. The display on this thing is a TFT LCD display, so it's not an IPS LCD. However, it has the full 16 million color complement. This was a premium phone. They could not cut colors down to 256,000 colors, so full 16 million color complement, and this is a resistive touchscreen as well. However, like I've said in the past, with Nokia's older resistive touchscreens, these things don't require a lot of pressure. Let me bring it closer. You barely put any pressure to touch the screen and get it to register. It almost feels like a capacitive touchscreen. However, you just have to put a bit of pressure and it registers. You don't have to stand on the thing like a older, cheaper resistive touchscreen. These were premium phones. They had the best of the best. So a really nice feeling resistive touchscreen. It's tactile, it feels nice. And you can use a stylus if you want. This thing didn't initially come with a stylus, but when I bought this phone, it came with this old Elago stylus, as you can see here, and it was hanging off the side of the phone with its sort of lanyard holder like thing. But you can use a stylus if you want. So the resolution on this thing is 360 by 640 pixels, so 360 like that, 640 like that, which gives it a pixel density of about 210 pixels per inch and an aspect ratio of 16 by 9. This display is really bright. This is actually medium brightness, actually lower medium brightness, and its colors are really accurate. Like I said, you get the full 16 million colors. They're sharp. They look nice. They're not like overly saturated or anything like that. Like I said, they're accurate. They're not overly saturated. They're not overly, I'd say, fading in the more lighter colors. And these older displays tend to like fade colors a lot. These colors don't fade on the edges like that. For example, if you look at the green on the Compass logo there, the lighter green at the bottom there hasn't faded off into a white. It is actually still green, and it's a very nice display to use. I had a blast using this thing. The outdoor performance with this brightness is amazing as well, and this is a perfectly usable display, honestly, in 2022. Now, I'm not a picky person. However, even if you're a normal user, you wouldn't really notice much of a difference unless you look really closer. You'll see the pixels. But as a normal user and someone who doesn't complain too much and who has experience with older devices like this display was definitely a treat to use. And I can imagine back in its day, this thing was an absolute beast of a display, probably the best of 2009. But I'm pretty sure Nokia had a few other phones with smaller displays that actually had a higher pixel density. However, overall, this was probably easily the best display of 2009 from a Nokia phone, or probably from any phone at the time. So a big thumbs up on the display. Alright, so now it's time to talk about the internal specifications on the Nokia N97, and this is where usually the issues came up, especially with the internal RAM limit and the RAM available to the user after everything had been run in the background, all the background processes and stuff. But let us start off with the processor on this thing now. The processor on this thing is a single core 434 MHz ARM11 processor, so single core at the time. The dual core processors had not taken off as of 2009. Dual core processors came in 2011 with the NVIDIA Tegra 2 on the LG Optimus 2X. So this is a single core, and it's most likely built by Texas Instruments, because Nokia did give a lot of processor contracts to Texas Instruments back in the day. So I could not find exactly who the manufacturer was online, but based on their history, it was most likely a Texas Instruments ARM11 based processor. This thing has an internal storage of 32 gigs, so a really large internal storage. And the N97 Mini was actually dropped to 16 gigs, but this thing shipped with 32 gigs of internal storage, which is a lot at the time, because the average was like 8 gigs in an average user's phone. So 32 gigs was a straight up overkill. And after all, this was an N-Series phone, so you should expect stuff like that. Storage for many years to come, and it could be expanded via the micro SD expansion slot up to 16 gigs as well. So a heap of storage for such a really good multimedia phone. Of course, the N-Series were multimedia phones, and they had to have heaps and heaps of storage, and of course expandability as well. And now we're coming to the RAM on this thing, which is only 128 megs of RAM. And after all the background processes and stuff started running, the user only had 50 megs on average to run applications. And if you're running heavier games and stuff, that is not really enough. And the N97 Mini corrected this because it had 250 megs of RAM. So that gave the user a lot of room to work with many applications. However, Nokia did release an update a few months later that fixed the RAM management issue and gave the user a bit more RAM. I could not find out exactly how much RAM was cleared, but it did give it a bit more to work with. It wasn't still great, however, it made it much more usable, and the N97 Mini, like I said, had much more RAM than this thing, so it fixed the RAM management issue. So the RAM was a major overlook in terms of design, and Nokia admitted a few months later that there was a quality control issue when it came to the hardware and the software on this phone. So that was one reason why 128 megs of RAM on such a premium phone, even at the time, got passed, because it was not enough at all. There were much cheaper phones as well that had more RAM than this thing, so that was a complete oversight by Nokia. But yeah, those were the internal specifications and one of the main issues on the N97, which was its RAM. But here in 2022, the hardware alone does not really make that much of a difference in terms of usability. I could not run too many apps on this thing because most of the apps don't really work. The ones that install, some of them don't work because of the lack of the servers being down and stuff, the lack of servers, and I really can't download stuff off the OV store because it no longer works. And side loading apps is actually an issue because the signature issue is there. You got to work around that, and that's complicated as well. But the apps that I did run on this phone ran perfectly fine, and it is what it is. So in 2022, the hardware issues don't seem too bad. However, at the time, they were actually quite bad, and this phone has I think been updated to an OS that was after the correction update. So this thing runs just fine. So in terms of software, the Nokia N97 is running the Symbian OS Series 60 5th edition, which is Symbian 9.4 at its core. So Series 60 5th edition, Symbian 9.4, and I can show you exactly which version this phone is running. So let us do, let us go into contacts here, actually the dialer, and do *#0000#. And as you can see, that is the version that this exact phone is running, and here are some other information as well. So this is your good old Symbian interface. As you can see here, it goes into landscape mode when the phone is like that, but you can also automatically, why isn't it doing that? Sometimes it goes back into portrait mode, but not always. Let's see if that works like this. Okay, yeah, it does work like that, but sometimes it goes to portrait mode when the keyboard is also open. But regardless, this is your old school, good old Nokia interface. As you can see, we have calendar, contacts, music, web, messaging, photos, OV store, maps, videos and TV, settings, games and applications. Under applications, there's a bunch of stuff, as you can see here. All of this stuff was installed by the previous owner as well, except my Nokia and phone setup. Vlingo, Boingo, Quick. Actually, Boingo, there's a chance that this was actually pre-installed, because this phone actually came with a lot of pre-installed stuff, including Adobe software and some other stuff. And those were all trials that you could extend using the OV store. So this was a premium phone that was focused on multimedia and productivity as well. So this thing actually had some Adobe software built into it and a bunch of other stuff as well. The games folder on this thing is empty. I think this did ship with games, but the previous owner may have erased the games folder. And then we have video and TV as well. You can watch your videos and all that stuff. And there were a couple of TV channels that you could, I think, stream to this as well. But I've never looked into this video and TV app as well. There are video feeds and stuff, RSS channels, etc., etc., stuff from the olden days. So that's really nice to see as well. The OV store, of course, doesn't work, so it's kind of pointless trying to load it. It's going to give you an error. Maps also does not work anymore. We have the web, which will demo in a bit as well. And this is your main menu. This is your home screen, which you can customize. As you can see, this phone has 2 home screens. You can customize all of this in options. So edit, hide, whatever you can hide, or you can edit content, show content, and all that stuff. You can also change these home screens the way you like. As you can see, let's see, you want to add something, add content, let's say we want the calendar, and there you go. So there's your calendar. Let's move on to another page there. Actually, let's move on to this side and then do options and show content. Then you can edit content as well, and you can customize your home screen in whatever way you want. You can change wallpaper, etc., etc. A really good selection of customization options there. And we can also go into settings here, and we can look at the themes and stuff. Of course, this was a premium phone. It had to have premium customization options as well. There's a bunch of stuff that you can do. You can change themes, you can change the many things on this thing. Wallpaper, call image, themes, everything is under general. You can download themes as well, and a bunch of nice customization options. So now let's look at the browser. Alright, so we're here in the browser, and the browser does not work perfectly, but it can be still used somewhat for browsing. I did use it a bit, but it's very limited. Sometimes these certificate pop-ups come up and it cannot connect due to a lack of network certificates and the whole secure connection thing. I don't know exactly how that works, but it does cause an issue and fails to connect. However, we can do some basic searches here. Let's go to Nokia's website actually. And it is relatively fast. I mean, you really can't expect too much from such an old phone, but it does work. As you can see, Nokia Corporation. I have loaded this website before, so I know it works. Open a secure connection. There you go. So sometimes this issue comes up, unable to connect to the network. This actually comes up at random. Come on. Yeah, no, sometimes it comes, sometimes it doesn't. Whenever you're trying to go to certain websites, Nokia's website usually does work, but it doesn't seem to want to do that today. Let's actually try Apple's website. And I have not tried that before, but we'll try it now and see what happens. And typing on this keyboard is just amazing. It feels so nice in the hand. I haven't tried Apple's website. Come on, work. Options. Accept permanently. Yes. We'll see if that works. Okay, so strangely, Apple's website did load here somewhat. You know, Apple's website is very heavy, so I can imagine what it's like for such an old phone to be trying to load such a heavy website. It's actually a bad example, but as you can see, this is somewhat the limited capability of the Nokia N97's browser here in 2022. It's not perfect, but it will load some pages just fine. But Apple's website is somewhat of a bad example here, but it did pass the certificate issue, and I wish Nokia's website would load now, because Nokia's website does usually load, so that's kind of a bummer there. But as you can see, Apple's website has somewhat loaded, and it's kind of loading in the background, but it'll get stuck eventually. So that is just a quick browser demo. Now, I wish I could demo some games on this thing, but like I showed you, the previous owner has erased all the older games, and I cannot load games onto this thing right now because of the certificate issue, and that's a huge process on its own, but I'm pretty sure it runs most older OV games just fine. This was a premium phone, and it has been updated, so I'm pretty sure the RAM management issue is no longer in this phone as well. But still, it was a very nice experience, a huge nostalgia trip to use this phone in 2022, especially for the OS, because I used a 5800 from 2008 to 2010, so I know exactly what this OS is like. I know this OS like the back of my hand. This is just your good old Nokia Symbian. Definitely something that I wish I could still use here in 2022 as a daily driver. However, it's just not possible. This is so old. However, when I was using this for the last few days, that was just a huge nostalgia trip, and I really enjoyed every bit of it. Just so much memories brought back from the early 2000s and stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure everyone watching this video also feels the same way, because everyone on Earth, almost everyone on Earth, has experienced the Nokia OS on some device at some point, and it's just one of those operating systems that everyone from our generation will remember for years and years to come. So yeah, using this thing in 2022, especially with this old OS and this layout and all that stuff, brought back so much memories and so much nostalgia. Now let us talk about the camera on this thing, and oh boy, is this thing an amazing camera. Now, first of all, as you can see, it has this slider mechanism. When it's in its closed position, it protects the camera, and when you do open it, it actually launches the camera app even though the phone is in its lock position. So that is quite nice to see. That's a very nice touch to it. And like I said, this was an issue on older models, because as you can see, there's a slight scratch on mine over there between the flashes and the camera itself, but some models actually had scratches on the camera itself, on the glass above the camera itself, so that was affecting the photos. This one is an older model, so it does not have the issue fixed, because in later models, Nokia actually increased the distance between the slider and the camera, and they apologized for it in a public statement as well. Now, despite all the aforementioned issues with the camera cover over here, this thing's camera is a killer. It can easily rival lower mid-range phones from 2022 and easily outperform budget phones like from the $50 to $150 range, Walmart phones, and not even Walmart phones, just like decent budget phones in general. It can easily outperform those. This thing's camera is a 5 megapixel autofocus camera with Carl Zeiss optics. As you can see, Carl Zeiss Tessa 2.8 by 5.4, that is the aperture, and it has a dual LED flash setup there as well. It can also record video at 480p at 30 fps. It's just your good old Nokia camera, well put together, well thought out, well engineered cameras that hold really well even today. The front camera is a simple VGA camera that can record VGA video at 15 fps as well. That is just for basic front-facing photography, just a basic selfie, and of course taking a video call as well. And when you do open the shutter button, let me show you, let me put it into the closed position, and when you open it, it automatically launches the camera even though it's in its locked position as well. Now we have the camera interface here. As you can see, we have some information. We have your battery, your camera setting, your resolution set over there. I've set it to the max, which is 5 megapixels. The number of photos or video you can take. You're in photo mode now. You have exit, take photo. You have your flash settings over here. We can put it to off. And here's a bunch of other stuff as well. Nokia camera applications were known for giving you a lot of options: your exposure, your white balance, sharpness, all that other stuff. You have a few more settings over here. You can go into other settings. You can choose your image quality, GPS info, and all that stuff, and you can switch to video mode or the front camera as well. Let us load up the front camera. As you can see, that's the front camera, simple VGA camera, and you can also switch to video mode from here, and you can choose some pre-existing scenes as well from the settings there. Scene mode, for the nighttime photography, I will be keeping it on the night mode. So here we go. Where is that? There we go. So I'll be keeping it for night mode, except for video, because night mode does slow down the video quite considerably. And you can also get into the camera, by the way, by pressing the camera shutter button. So that's also quite convenient. And the standard daytime photos, I will have them on automatic mode to get the best results. Just set it to scene mode automatic and just take photos like that. However, nighttime photos, I will do night mode, except on video, because video gets quite grainy. Regardless, let us now go into the camera sample shot during the day, as well as the video sample shot during the day, and then the video and camera samples at night as well. And I'll also include some selfies from the front camera there as well. So in 3, 2, 1, let's roll the images. Alright, so as you saw with those camera samples, they just look amazing. They're bright, they're sharp, they're not fading on the edges or anything like that. So the camera has held up really well over time in terms of design and durability. The camera hasn't faded over time as well. It hasn't degraded or anything like that. These things were built really well. They were designed really well, engineered and built really, really well. That just shows how well the Nokia N-Series lineup and most Nokias actually at the time were really well built, so it has really stood the test of time really well. You saw the samples for yourself. I don't really have to explain. A big thumbs up on the camera, holds really well in 2022 despite being so old. Now let us actually do a speaker demo on this thing, and I've already done a nostalgic ringtones video over here. You can go watch that if you already haven't, just a few days ago, for all the ringtones on this phone. Today we'll be only covering some ringtones in the interest of time here, but if you want to go listen to all the ringtones, you can watch that video. It'll be also linked down in the description below. Max volume, and I can show you how good the dual stereo speakers are on this thing. Now, these stereo speakers are built really, really well. They're not crackly. They're not overly, how should I say, they don't vibrate too much, so they don't overdo the bass or anything like that. And they're side firing, as you can see here, or they're bottom firing when you hold them, when you hold the phone like this. So they're really, really loud, and we have it on max volume. And if you want to hear all the ringtones again, you have to watch that video. I uploaded it a few days ago. So now let's go into ringtones, and we'll actually play some ringtones. Alarm 2. Let's do Nokia. So as you can hear, really loud, not crackly, not tinny, and really, really good speakers that have also held up really well throughout the years and haven't degraded over time. Again, really good Nokia engineering that has gone into those speakers. Of course, this was an N-Series phone, so the speakers had to do their job and perform really well because these were multimedia focused phones. So big thumbs up on the speakers there. Now, this thing being a N-Series device, it was packed to the brim with extra features. There was no question with that regarding the extra features on this phone. It features Wi-Fi with UPnP technology as well. So the Wi-Fi, if you want to get specific, was 802.11, and the Bluetooth on this thing is A2DP capable, Bluetooth 2.0. It also has GPS, which is a GPS, and that is with Nokia Maps. It has stereo FM radio and also a FM transmitter as well. So you can transmit music on a FM frequency to another phone or any other device that can accept FM radio as well. So this thing can basically be a radio transmitter for FM frequencies. It also has RDS. It has a bunch of other features as well, Adobe Flash Lite, and a bunch of stuff that was bundled in the box with this thing. Some of it was actually trial software that you could buy later if you'd like, Adobe Flash, and then document viewers, and just a bunch of software features as well. And the OV Store complemented all the amazing hardware features that this phone had with apps that were really capable. This was an N-Series device, so multimedia and basically creativity was focused mainly on this device. So Nokia promoted those things, other creativity apps and stuff on the OV Store. And there's just so much features to talk about this phone. Honestly, one of the minor features that I really like, it's really minor, but I really do like it, is again this feature where you can just slide that open and the camera auto launches. Now that's not a new feature in any other Nokia devices, but I really think it's kind of neat regardless. And of course the keyboard is also counted as a major extra feature, just a major part of the phone in general. A really, really nice keyboard. It feels nice in the hand and all that stuff. just a plethora of features. And also another nice touch is the notification light. Now I don't have a notification running, but the notification light around the home button does blink whenever you have a notification, and you can customize that in the settings as well. So a really feature-packed device from the N-Series, a true testament to Nokia's engineering. And I've said it before, even in my N71 videos, that the N71, despite being fat and bulky, still packed in all those features regardless. Nokia didn't care about the looks at the time, they just wanted to pack in all the features. But with the N97, they did the looks well and the features well. So a big thumbs up in terms of extra features. I can go on all day about all the features on this phone. However, in the interest of time, will not. But regardless, this phone is just packed to the brim in extra features. Now, in terms of battery performance, the N97, being an N-Series multimedia device, was marketed as having a 2-day battery life, and preliminary tests actually showed that this was really true, and it was a bit better than what Nokia advertised as well in some occasions. Now, the battery on this thing, as you can see, is the BP4L, and what I can tell from this battery is that it's the original battery of this phone. Now, a strange story regarding this specific phone: I got it off eBay for like 24 bucks. It was really cheap. I thought it was a refurb initially because it looked so nice. Like, this thing is spotless and it looked really nice. No scratches, nothing. It was so cheap, so I thought, okay, it's a refurbished unit with a swapped body. But when I got it in hand, it turns out it's not a refurb. It was just probably locked by a bad SIM, because the seller had listed it as a passcode lock. But I'm pretty sure he mistook that for a SIM lock. And he probably took out the old SIM and just sold it to me like that, because when I turned it on, there was no lock on this thing. And all my other tests on this thing showed that this is an actual original unit that has not been body swapped or anything like that. It probably got locked at some point and no one really used it. That's why it is in such good condition. And this is the American variant of the Nokia N97. As you can see, RM507 N97-3. The international variant is RM505 N97-1, and this is the American variant. It's also made in China, and the international variant is made in Finland. So with this battery, the BP4L, which is a 1500 milliamp hour battery, as you can see there, Nokia claimed a talk time of about 6 hours on 3G and about 9.5 hours on 2G, a standby time of about 17 days on 3G and 18 days on 2G, video playback time roughly about 4.5 to 5 hours, video recording about 3.6 to 3.7 hours, and music playback of about 40 hours. So those are some bold claims, and it turns out that was actually quite true. The standby time was about 432 hours on 2G and about 408 hours on 3G when basically tests were done, and talk time was about 9 hours and 30 minutes on 2G and roughly about 6 hours on 3G, and the music playback time could actually be extended to about 50 hours if you were careful with the volume and stuff. So Nokia somewhat underestimated the battery performance somewhat on this device, and it was a really good performer in terms of battery. Of course, it was an it was a N-Series device. It was a multimedia focused device, and it was packing in terms of features, and probably you can count the great battery life as one of the features. Regardless, a performing powerhouse that'll last you at least 2 days. And furthermore, when I was using this in 2022, just taking it around, doing my average stuff with this thing, the battery still held up quite well. This old battery actually still can hold a charge quite well, and I've been doing this entire video recording on a single charge. I never had to charge this between video recordings throughout the last few days that I've been doing this video, recording this video. So this BP4L battery, despite being really old, can still hold a charge. But like I said, it probably wasn't used that much because it got that passcode issue like I mentioned. So a really good performer in terms of battery life, a multimedia powerhouse, powered for at least 2 days with a solid battery performance there. So thumbs up in terms of battery performance. Even in 2022, with such an old battery, it still holds up really well. So finally, we have actually come to the end of this video, and using this phone for the past few days has actually been just a treat for me. I really loved this this Nokia N97. It was just a amazing phone to use. And I do have another unit, however, it doesn't seem to be in the best of features. This one over here, as you can see on camera here, it is actually a phone that I've never seen in real life. That's because I had to ship it off to a relative, actually in a different country, because shipping was cheaper, and it was a bunch of other devices in that lot as well. But I haven't seen that N97, but I really want to get my hands on that one as fast as I can, because I really fell in love with this device while using it for the past few days. It's just such an amazing device. It feels great. The OS is just such a nostalgia hit. The camera is amazing. It's just a really nice device, and sure, it does have its flaws like I mentioned. However, it is also in some ways one of the best Nokia devices ever made, and also one of the worst Nokia devices ever made. It's just a double-edged sword. But personally, I really love the N97, and I cannot wait to use this a bit more off camera in time as well, because I'll definitely keep this on the table over here next to all my other favorite phones and occasionally use them on and off. And considering this one is in such good condition, I may stop using this one itself and probably get another one and leave this one for display purposes. But regardless, the N97 is such a nice little phone, and I was really happy using it throughout all these days. And yeah, so we've come to the end of this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you honestly did, don't forget to smash that like button down below, as it helps this video get on YouTube's algorithm. And also don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below and ring that bell notification button. Like I said, if you don't get notified of my video uploads, please hit that bell notification button so you get that notification to your phone whenever I upload a new video. Ask a question down below, leave a comment down below, let me know what you think about this phone. Did you own one at some point? Do you want to get your hands on one or whatever? Let me know down below. Ask a question, I can answer your questions. My social media is also linked down in the description below, which includes Instagram, Discord, and Twitter. Thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in my next video.